I'm Vanessa Rock, the girl on a bike. Welcome to Death Valley in California. I am here with Alpinestars, and in this video I'm going to be talking to you about a piece of kit that I think every single motor rider is going to be wearing in a very short period of time. So what is it I am talking about? It is the Alpinestars TechAir Off Road Impact Airbag Vest. This is a piece of kit that I've actually been wearing for the last 2 years through my desert racing. It is mandatory in many of the big events and meets FIM regulations. So the Dakar, there were over 100 riders on the start line this year wearing this kit, and it's been in research and development for coming close to 20 years. I think Alpinestars first had the idea of starting to do an onboard airbag. Now in this video I have flown out to Las Vegas and taken a car over to Death Valley for the Alpinestars global launch of the TechAir Off Road. Now they do have a range of different airbags, which I will try and give you a little bit of a summary to in this video as well, but this video really is going to focus on this off-road one, which has 3 different algorithms. So it's also compatible for street, enduro, hard enduro and rally, and I'm going to go through all of the different techs and specs. Now as someone who has been wearing one for a couple of years, I can hand on my heart tell you that I would never dream of going to the start line of one of these desert rallies without this kit on. It has saved me on 5 different deploys. I'm going to show you some of that footage in this video as well, so if you want to see Vanessa have some big offs, keep watching. Now you might notice that it is raining right now. Yes, Death Valley is below sea level and is notoriously known for being one of the hottest places in the world. It is raining and there is a crazy weather system hitting California right now. There's floods and landslides, roads being washed away, but hopefully we're going to be okay out on the bikes. We've got 2 days riding, 200 miles today on adventure bikes. I'm yet to find out what I'm riding, and then tomorrow we're going to be doing more of an enduro style on dual sports. So we're going to be putting the kit to the test. So far I've had it on this morning and it fits like a glove. It's incredibly comfortable. Comes in a range of sizes. There isn't a women's version of this, but as a woman I can tell you it fits no problem at all. But all right, everyone is kitting up, so I'm gonna get on the bike. We're gonna go do some riding. Of course I've got to be on the bike, feel what it's like to actually wear and ride before I can tell you what I think. But of course this is the 3rd version of a piece of kit that I've been wearing for a few years, so I've definitely got a good load of experience, use case and trust in this airbag system. So let's get riding. Okay, here is my bike. We can see I'm in a puddle. I'm gonna have to wade to him, but I am on the Yamaha T7 Tenere. Beautiful bike, rode one in Sardinia. You can see my full review of it from a couple of years ago. It's gonna be wet. Look at that groundwater. Oh my goodness. Okay, about 20 miles in and we've got to the end of the tarmac. In front of us is dirt and we're going to be taking it off the road. Now I've got my Airvest in street mode for the moment, and that apparently, algorithm wise, is actually good for a little bit of ADB off-roady stuff as well, so I'm feeling protected. It is definitely wet, so we've come down a road that's closed, and there were a few sections where you could kind of tell why they wouldn't want big vehicles coming down, but I think as the day goes on we might learn a little bit more why it's closed. But it's an adventure! Prepared a regroup, but we've unfortunately lost 2 members of the group where it's quite slippery and gnarly out here, so they've decided to turn back. I'm feeling good, so we continue. We're doing some mega sort of single, double track trails. I don't even know what I'm talking about. You can hear some engines coming up behind me, and the airbag. A lot of people ask me, what's it feel like? Does it feel really big and heavy and clunky? And it kind of just feels like a slightly larger version of a normal body armor. So if you're used to wearing body armor to keep you safe on a bike, which I definitely recommend, then it's just a slightly bigger version of it, and I'm going to give you a full talk through of the kit a little bit later on, but for now I'm going to keep enjoying Death Valley. And we are probably around sea level right now, and one of the reasons why this place is known to be Death Valley is it's one of the hottest places in the world, and it's like a low basin where the heat just gets trapped. But I'm not experiencing that heat right now. I'm very glad I've got some Alpinestars thermals and waterproofs on, let's just say that. Although right now, I don't want to jinx it, but there's no water falling from the sky. American looking stuff. We're all saddling back up. We just had a hot dog from the petrol station. I'm not sure what meat was in it, but we are getting back on the road. The plan is changing because of the flooding. The town and the route we were going to do is all shut off by basically like rivers across the road. So we're going to be trying to go a different way, and we'll see how far we get. Obviously if the road's closed, you got a little bit of like law issues, so we'll see what happens. Negatory. That is a very, 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 very flooded road, and apparently if you go down a road that is closed, it's a felony offence. Oh, it's now open. The gate has been opened. I don't really want to go to American prison though. I think I'd get eaten alive in American prison, but they're going down to check it out. Okay, I have a tiny little insert to put into this video. Now, what I do takes a lot of time and energy, and for this video I have partnered with BikeSure to help enable me to keep doing what I do. So I want to just take a quick moment to tell you about BikeSure. They are an insurance company. They do insurance for motorcycles, but a key thing to really know about them is that it's all kinds of motorcycles, and even super customed, really individual, unique motorcycles. The key thing for them is that it is really unique and is about the customer. So the best way to get your quote is to give them a call, talk to them, and they will give you the best price that they can. So BikeSure, check them out, and thank you to BikeSure for helping support me with this video. Now back to Death Valley. We've just got back from an amazing ride around Death Valley here in California, and it has been really wet and muddy, but now is the time to get into the details of the TechAir system. Now, the first thing a lot of people think is that if you're wearing an airbag, you're going to look like some kind of Michelin man. Hopefully you don't think I look like some kind of fat Michelin right now, because I am wearing the airbag. When it comes to sizing of your garments that are going to go over it, I'm in a small jacket, which is what I'd be normally typically wearing, with some kind of full body armor underneath. And that's exactly the same size going over the Airvest. So if I do a Superman moment, we can see underneath I am wearing the kit already. So the airbag is designed to be able to go underneath your clothing, like I'm wearing at the moment. Now this jacket does actually come with armor in the elbows and the shoulders. So I've removed them from the garment because the air jacket, the TechAir system, has armor in it. But you could, if you prefer, keep the armor in your jacket and remove the armor from the elbows and the shoulder of the garment. Now what I'm going to do is talk you through the kit and give you a bit of a rundown about some of the technology and why I genuinely think this is the sort of kit that will become like seatbelts in cars, airbags in cars. When they first came out, there was a little bit of resistance. You don't need airbags, you don't need seatbelts. But now, can you imagine a car without them? Can you imagine getting into a car and not putting your seatbelt on? Now, as a rally racer, I think I've done 6 multi-day international rallies wearing one of these pieces of kit now, and I can tell you on 5 occasions it has literally been the difference between me getting up, getting back on my bike and continuing with the race versus possibly getting into a helicopter and having some pretty bad injuries. Now I'm going to let you know the price point of this kit a little bit later on. Key thing to think about is how much does it cost to buy the kit versus how much does it cost to not be able to go for work for an injury, whether that's a small injury a few weeks or a bigger injury where you could be wiped out for multiple weeks or months. What's the more expensive piece of kit? But we're going to get into price in a little bit later. So first of all, you can see it is fitting just like you'd expect for a full body armor. It's got level 1 protection on the shoulders, the elbows, and level 2 on the chest. So I've got a big plate. It's designed ergonomically, so you're on a bike, you've got loads of movement. That chest plate doesn't interfere with anything, and you can see on the back I've still got the full armor on the back. So inside we've got 3 accelerometers and 3 gyroscopes. Now the easiest way to simplify the technology, basically Alpinestars have been working on how this thing works out when you're going to hit the ground, before you even know you're going to hit the ground, for nearly 20 years now. There's been so much research and development that's gone into it. Hours and hours, kilometers, miles, days worth of riding data, years worth of pro athletes actually riding it. If you take this year's Dakar alone, there were more than 100 riders wearing them and over 320 deploys. Now all of that data has gone into the algorithm to make this airbag a preventative deployment, not a reactive deployment. Now I'm going to explain that a little bit more. This has an algorithm inside it that knows you're going to hit the ground probably before you do. Now there are other Airvests on the market that have a more reactive way of deploying. For example, a tether that goes from you to your motorcycle. Now if we take your motorcycle and you and a piece of string cord that's attaching you to it, depending on which way you fall is massively going to delay how quickly it's going to go off. So let's just say you're tethered forwards and somehow you fall forwards over your bars, which I have done. You've then got to have that tether go slack and wait until you get to the extension again before it's even going to go off. The accelerometers and algorithm in this is going to know well before any kind of tether. You get other types of airbags which depend on GPSs. That uses your speed from the GPS as part of the algorithm to know when to go off. What happens if you're in a thick forest? What about in a canyon or mountainsides? There is massive interference on GPS. How would you feel if you had a crash and your airbag didn't go off purely because it lost connection to that? Not the best technology to have. So this is all about being a proactive approach to deploying as opposed to a reactive. And from the crashes I've had, it seriously knows it's got to go off before you even realize you're falling off. Now that leads me to probably being brought around by maybe cheaper airbags on the market, and that is these things deploying when you don't need them. If you take the most recent few years of data from Alpinestars, they don't have wrong deploys. I know for myself, this airbag and the previous airbag, this is version 3, I was in version 1, version 2, I'm now in version 3. I've never had my airbag go off when I didn't need it, ever. A little wobble over in a sand dune or a trip, it doesn't go off. But every single time I've had a crash where I've needed it, it's gone off and it's been right there and done its job. Now the next myth is that when it goes off, you blow up, you can't move, you have to stop riding, you have to like pack it down, you've got to send it off. No, There's 2 gas cylinders in the back of this Airvest, and that gives you 2 deploys. It will go off in 40 milliseconds. Bear in mind that there are 1,000 milliseconds in a second, so that works out at 0.04 seconds to deployment. That's 8 times faster than we can blink. So we're talking like it's gone off, and that will put out 10-litre volume of air into the Airvest to 1 bar of pressure. And it's, the only way to describe it is like my husband, because obviously you will know what my husband's hand feel like. Picture what my husband's hands would feel like if it was like all over you, just giving you a protective cuddle. Now, the airbag is on the whole torso, back, chest, shoulders, upper arms, collarbones. So that whole area is protected by that deployment. And it gives you a protection of a 95% reduction on the impact of that crash. 95% reduction. So that means you're going to feel more like 5% of what you would have felt if you hadn't been wearing it. Now, for me, having had it deploy and been wearing it in these races, I would not put myself on the start line without wearing it. Now, the more my airbag journey has continued, particularly being here with Alpinestars for this global launch, the more I feel like I've educated myself on the fact that I get on a motorcycle a lot of time and put myself in risky environments, because we all know motorcycles are dangerous, and I don't wear an airbag. Why don't I wear it during Enduro? Why don't I wear it on the road? Why don't I wear it on my Harley when I'm cruising across Romania? And that's made me realize on this trip that there are actually more airbags in the Alpinestars range than just the off-road. Really briefly, they have the Tech 3. That is an overgarment design meant to be a lot more versatile to just throw on and take off. And they've also got some designs that look like a vest that you'd want to wear on your Harley, as an example. You've got the 10, which is more of a racetrack one, and that does the full torso and into your hips. That has been compulsory, I believe, since 2017 in the MotoGP, or at least some form of airbag. So these things have been around and been tested for a while. In the FIM regulation races that I'm doing in rally side of desert stuff, it's compulsory. You cannot be on that start line without it. And every single day when you get on that start line, they will be checking for your lights to make sure that your airbag is deployed, because they know through proven stats that this is saving injuries, and saving injuries is a massive cost of helicopters in the desert that gets basically wiped off the organizer's bill. So you can see why they're incentivized to help keep us safe. So that's the 3, the 10. You've also got the 5. So the 5 is the one that most people are probably aware of on the market. That is more of a t-shirt looking air vest, and that jacket gives you 1 deploy from the cylinders. Now, when you do have a deploy of your airbag, I'm going to take it off in a moment and show it to you. You don't actually have to panic. The air will just deflate out of the jacket on its own seamlessly. I've got a good riding crash footage that I will show you, and you can see exactly how much I puff up from the air deployment, and within seconds or a few seconds it deploys back down and you can carry on riding. Now, bearing in mind in my back here I have 2 gas cylinders. That's going to give me 2 deploys. So if I'm in a race in the rally, I have an off, airbag's gone off, I know I'm safe for another deploy before you then want to think about potentially changing your gas cylinders, which I have done on the side of the rally track before to make sure I am being protected. Are we picking that? Got a disco car. Okay, so the fitting of it, you've got an over-shoulder strap, you've got a zip and a bungee cord elastic that goes around your waist. These are adjustable to make sure it's fitted and nice and snug. You want it to be comfortable. All the seams are like inside out seams, which means the seam that's on your body, there is no seam, so you're not going to get rubbing and chafing. There is ventilated areas, so the stinky armpits aren't going to get stinky because there is no armpit. It's a nice mesh, so it's made to be lightweight. Now here is a magnet, and the key for activating this is that as you do the zip up, those magnets engage. I don't know if you can hear that, but I felt it, it vibrates, and the blue light has come on. That's telling me that it is ready to go. Now, why did they use a blue light? It's because there are people in the world that are colorblind, and a green light is the most commonly misinterpreted color, and blue is one of the least misinterpreted colors. So when you've got a blue light, you know you're good to go. You can see the 3 different algorithm settings down here. So we've got street, enduro and rally, and the algorithm does change slightly for the different styles of riding. And when you say enduro, it tends to be a slower paced off-road, also suitable for hard enduro, which is very exciting because I've had some big bumps on my hard enduro bike. I did Romaniacs a few years ago, and I think I wish I had this on then. You then got rally. Key thing for why you then go into rally mode is your speed. You're looking at, if you're going over more like 50 miles per hour, it's worth putting it into the rally mode, and you move between them with a click of the button. So if I take it off, you'll be able to see the inside a little bit more easily. Lovely, seamless insides. You can't actually see the whole bladder on the inside. Your bladder is sort of certified, approved by Alpinestars for 4 deploys, and then they do recommend that you send it in to get it serviced, which is looking likely to be just shy of $300 price for that reservice, and the 2 gas cylinders are around $160, $170, and that gives you 2 crashes. And there's no subscription, so once you buy this piece of kit, it's yours, and if you don't crash, it's not going to cost you much. Now, you do have to charge it. It is a USB-C charge, and it has about 30 riding hours out of a charge, and it takes about 4 hours to go from totally flat to fully charged. So it's not a long recharge time. I'm going to really quickly show you in the back. Key thing here is a hydration pouch, so you don't have to wear a rucksack. There are 2 hanging points, one in the middle, one at the top. So if you were to have a 1.5 litre bladder versus a 3 litre. This is an example of a 3 litre one that would go into there. You've got a upside down zip. That's so that gravity can't accidentally open it. And I'm having a little bit of a fumble, but you can then put your bladder in there, strap it at the top, zip it up, and you've got water, which we all know is pretty important in the desert. In the back here, I am going to quickly show you. You know what? I'm going to really quickly swap and make this easier. We're going to do a magic trick. Airbag, stay, don't fall in the mud. This is like a Blue Peter moment. Here's one I made earlier. This is a lovely fresh one that doesn't smell of Vanessa, but it is identical. And on the back, I just want to show you the electronics on the inside. So we're going to open the zip to get better access. There's a pull down here. You hold the top. When it's on a ledge, it's a little bit easier. So that pops off. Now, with things like airbags, unfortunately, us humans tend to be the weakest link, so they've basically foolproofed it. This cover has loads of little bits on it, and if the inside of here isn't perfectly in the right place, this won't go back on, which is going to help you make sure it's not on incorrectly. The gas cylinders have a light system on them. If the red light is on, it's good to go. If the red light is flashing, it's been deployed and you need to change it. There's a little on-off switch here. So if you're storing your jacket and not using it for a while, you recommend charging it up, leaving it full and switching it off. Now, if you leave it on, the garment will go into sort of sleep mode in 5 to 7 minutes. So if you were to sit really still and have a coffee, but you have to sit really still, it potentially could go to sleep. The clue is that all your lights will go off. You just need to turn it back on again. But today, having lunch, I made a conscious effort to see if it went still while I sat chilling out, and it didn't. It knew I was in it and it stayed on, which is really cool. It's just hocus pocus stuff, seriously. Here is the only bit of the bladder that you can see quite easily, and that is where the gas is going to deploy and go around and keep you protected. I think that's a pretty solid summary of the Airvest. I genuinely think that this technology is going to become normalized. I remember when I first started snowboarding, I don't want to put a time on this because it'll make me feel really old, but nobody wore helmets. The people on the slopes that wore helmets looked weird. Now, if you're not wearing a helmet on the slopes, you look weird. And I think Airvests are going to be just like that in a matter of years. They are a cost and investment to buy. You're looking at around $1,000 to get one of these Alpinestars ones. And I know from being in the rally scene the Alpinestar really is the leading off-road air vest on the market. If you look at, like, I don't know, let's take a really obvious one, the Dakar this year. I think every single person in the top 10 in the Dakar was wearing them, and I think there were 120 or something, no, 140 riders and 110, don't quote me on numbers, but a very, very, very big majority of the riders doing these kind of extreme races, same in the Africa Eco Race that I've just done, are choosing Alpinestars to keep them protected. And the reason why is that the technology is so good. They've done their research, hours and hours of athlete data to make this a piece of kit that's going to keep your body protected when you need it. And a 95% reduction on an impact is mind-blowing. Now, my crash video that I've just shown you was 2 weeks ago, and I have a separated ACJ joint in my shoulder, a level 3, guaranteed. If I hadn't had the airbag on, I'd be needing surgery right now, but actually I was able to get back up in quite a lot of pain and keep going to the finish line, and that thing paid for itself all over because I'm not having surgery. Let me know if you've got any questions in the comments, and have you ever used an airbag? What's your thoughts? Would you be tempted to put one on? Have a look at the Alpinestars website and you can see all of the different 3, 5, 10 off-road models and some of their specs written down. I really hope this video has been enjoyable. It's not over yet though, because tomorrow we're going to be testing it in an enduro setting as opposed to an adventure setting. So stay tuned to see if I have a deploy. Please don't let me have a deploy. I don't want to fall off. It's possible I might fall off because it's really, really, really muddy out here. But we might be going to sand dunes tomorrow. And I don't know what sand dunes do in the rain. I'm going to stop talking. Let's keep riding. Make sure you hit subscribe, tick the bell, get notifications. I'm just going to walk this way. I have my weapon of choice, the CRF300L. I don't know if you've seen my YouTube video review of the Mini Africa Twin. This is going to be something similar maybe? Don't know. I'm excited to try it.
Well, we rode some yesterday, but I'm like...
This is some awesome goofball riding. We're basically trying to get through the track and we're in the middle of like muddy slop. The HRC guys have just gone on ahead to see if they can find a way through because there's so much water. There's some muddy people. Hottest place, driest place in the world. Yeah, come to Death Valley, they said. It'll be dry and hot, they said. Woohoo! We are on Big June! Yeah, we are on Big June. So this is so random. There's just a random sand dune kind of section. It's not very big, but I mean it's a lot of fun. Normally this is like soft fluffy sand, but because it's been raining it is wet, which is very peculiar to be in a dune that's wet. Uh-oh! Pull the front wheel around, downhill. Yeah, of course. Oh, he's trying to get the big boy. I feel like my bike would have a heart attack if I went up there.
Go do it, it looks awesome.
Go on this?
Yeah.
You reckon I'll make it? On my little hairdryer?
And it's down there for photos.
Okay. Woo! tested Mark 1, Mark 2 and 3 of the TechAir Off Road. I just had a washout here and it's kind of slid down. It's so exciting, everything's going on. But I thought it was probably worth showing you. I'm not necessarily convinced the airbag should or needed to go off then as far as my fall, but the human is always the weakest link, right? So we've got my little control panel here and I have it in street mode. So of course, if you get a washout and fall over on the street, you're gonna want it to go off. So human error, I had it on the wrong mode. It just shows how good the algorithms are. So I'm gonna just tell you what these mean. Here, I can click and hold it and it will change between the different modes. So it's just vibrated. It's not very easy to see the colors in this light, but I'm now in rally mode. And then I'm gonna do it again. And if I get some light, it vibrates to confirm. So you physically feel it change.
You gotta give it a real solid.
There we go. Okay, now it's in Enduro mode. I'm not going fast enough on my little hairdryer bike to warrant rally mode. That's like 50 mile an hour plus. So I shouldn't deploy like I'm on a street now. Good learning point, but it also is quite cool how easy it is to switch it between the modes. So if you're riding along on your adventure bike, say, and you decide to turn off onto the gravel tracks, you can shove it into Enduro mode pretty easily. And I deployed.